Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Not a huge agenda tonight, so. First thing, I'd like to start with a special announcement. I understand it's Susan Michelson's birthday. Thank you for joining us on your birthday, and happy birthday.
Thank you. I have to cut out at 7:15, so I hope it's short.
We'll push this through. In fact, let's conclude the meeting now. Why not? Okay. Minutes. Everyone get a chance to take a look at the minutes? Do we approve the minutes from last month? So.
We need one change. We need to delete me from those present, since I was not.
Okay. Can we get a deletion in there? All right. Otherwise, are we approving?
So moved.
All in favor? 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, 7. Passes 7-0. How about that? Okay. Tammy, why don't we start with the recreation report?
Sure, just a recreation report for April 2014. It's always a very busy month, of course, getting ready to transition from spring into summer. A lot of great events and programs taking place. Noteworthy for April, we did have a Zumbathon event take place at Radnor Activity Center for the very first time. We had over 80 participants that took part in that event. It was a cooperative event with the American Lung Association. It was a huge success for us. It's something that we're definitely going to look at exploring for future years. We also had the Arbor Day celebration that took place over at Friends of Radnor Trails Park. It was held in cooperation with the Radnor Cub Packs, 19 and 371, Radnor Conservancy, and of course our Public Works Department had a large role in helping to get the sites prepped. We planted 8 trees on that day, and it was a really great event, a lot of success. It did happen on the rain date. Of course, it's a trend, keeping up with the trend of having events on rain dates, of course, but huge success, real happy about that. Youth Trout Derby also took place in April. We had 225 participants this year. That's a cooperative event that takes place with the Sportsmen's Association of Chester Valley and a gentleman by the name of Steve Grabusky, who does a lot of work on that. It's in its 17th year this year. And with the 225 participants that took part, it was an all-time high for that event. So everybody had a great time down in Sawmill and fishing, and a lot of great pictures and things there actually included for the board within my report. Also, Wheels of Wayne took place in its second year on North Wayne Avenue on April 27th. It was a huge success. We went from 68 cars last year to approximately 95 this year. I think we had 14 that actually showed up on the actual event day. We had over 30 vendors and organizations that were represented, comprised of businesses, community organizations like Wayne Arts Center were there. It was a great event. For those of you who had joined us, a lot of great cars. I said at the day of the event, the cars were the stars of that event. It's something that everybody enjoyed, all the car participants enjoyed. We actually gave out some really great trophies too, so there were award winners as part of that. And of course, we named Matador as the best pulled pork of Wayne as part of that event. It did expand its footprint slightly around West Avenue, right off of North Wayne Avenue, where it meets Station Road right there. We thought that was a huge success. Helped create a little bit of breathing room for the event, expand it. We were able to bring in a lot more cars. And I think it was very well received by the business community. Everybody had a good time at the event. Folks were patroning all the businesses that were open on that day, and we were really excited about it. So really, in conclusion, just getting ready for summer. We have summer camps coming up, and we'll have a large menu of activities. Registration's open for summer day camp, and of course we have a lot of variety camps that are going to be opening and will be beginning in June. So for anybody who's looking for more information, be sure to check our website at radnor.com and radnorrecreation.com. There's a lot of information. Sign up is open. Things are filling up quickly, so of course we always encourage people to register early. And that concludes my report for April.
Thank you, Tammy. Any questions on that? Comments? Tammy, I had heard about the Wheels of Wayne. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it, but I heard nothing but good things. And I saw the article in the Suburban as well that just gave it glowing reviews. So congratulations, that's great. 2 years in a row.
Thank you.
And the
One
weather's
last
been
thing.
perfect.
It was perfect. Weather was perfect for that one. Knock on wood, we've actually had a good run with the bigger events having good weather. And some of the other events are a little bit smaller, have gone to their rain dates and actually still have remained successful over the last year. One last thing I just wanted to show too is one of our most successful events that we had in 2013 was the Fall Pumpkin Patch event that we do over at the Willows. There was about 4,000 people that actually attended that event this year. It was held in October, and we won this really great award from the Pennsylvania Recreation and Park Society. We had a president of that organization come out to our Board of Commissioners meeting on March 28th, and they gave us this great plaque, so we're going to hang it up in the lobby over there. It's the first-time award for our department. It's something we're really proud of.
That's great. Congratulations. Fantastic. Okay, Mark, Parks report. Anything to report regarding the parks?
Just a few things. It's been very busy, as you know.
Yep.
And we're in our prime time right now after the 6 inches of rain. Last week, we were back up and running day 2, I'm going to say, after the rainstorm, the ball fields and stuff, which is prime time. And grass is growing overnight, so I don't have to tell you. And we're running back and forth and pulling all our hair out, as you know. So we got a lot of things. The board just approved the seed and fertilizer program, and we'll be starting that next week, which is awesome, and all organic, as you know.
Yep.
So that's a good thing. We did some markouts out here today. We're going to plant 20 trees in this area,
Okay.
right around the Township building and Enki and the golf course, which is a good thing. And Tammy was touching on Arbor Day, and
Nice.
I'd like to give a shout out to Kimberly Donchez, who just was amazing during Arbor Day, and the tree giveaway.
Yep.
As you know, 150 trees we gave away here at the Township building was a huge success, and thanks to Bob and the commissioners. Also, we just finished up on the roadside pickup for the storm damage.
Oh, great.
2 months ago.
2 months,
3 months
right,
ago.
exactly.
But, you know, it was just awesome. The residents, the feedback was just amazing. So it was just a great thing. And I'd like to thank everybody for that. And ball fields, the tot lots, we're going in 10 different directions, and we're just moving right along. So I'd like to thank my guys also. They're just working very hard, and everybody's on board. So.
Well, it shows. I was on Enki A last night. It was spectacular. The grass was cut perfect. The field was groomed. It looked great. So thank you.
Good. Thank you, guys. And I'd like to thank Tammy and her group. We've all been working together, and all our events and stuff is just a great thing. I'm proud to be part of Radnor. So
Great.
thank you.
Thanks. Any comments from the board regarding the parks that they're stewards of? Chuck?
Yeah, I would like to report out on the meeting that Tammy held with the neighbors for Veterans Park. I attended the meeting, and it was very well received, and it was run very professionally, friendly, courteous. The people had a great opportunity to give input. The input was taken, discussed. Bob was also there, and the neighbors all kind of got together afterwards and just began to talk. And it was just nice to be present and witness part of the process that is moving us forward in making sure that the parks what we're doing in the parks is well received by the people, not only in all of Radnor, but especially the ones that are right there and adjacent to it and surrounding it. So I'd like to thank Tammy for running that and putting it together and being part of it, witnessing it, seeing it, live action happening. It's a good process, and I think it's something that shows the citizens of Radnor that we're serious about making sure everybody's listened to. And when they do give us input, that input's going to go past just this room and be taken back to the people who are going to then reconstruct or redesign and then come back again. So it's all part of the process. And the neighbors I talked with afterwards were very pleased with that and told me to mention this to them. So
Great.
I'm just mentioning it. Thank you.
Thanks. Yes.
I'd like to comment, Mark, I spent a lot of time at Otorosio and South Devon and Clover, and they all look fantastic. I'm impressed with how much has been cleaned up I know there's the trees even on Odorrcio, which is a huge job. And you can see it's amazing. So really, how much has been accomplished in the last couple months is great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Memorial Park, I just noticed the other day, it looked, other than the fact that it generally looks great, but it looks as if the water fountain there may have been vandalized, or I couldn't tell what the problem was, but it clearly needs to be repaired. So in case you hadn't noticed that one.
We were there today. It needed a new cylinder. The plumber, D'Antonio, took care of that, and everything's up and running. So you see.
All right.
We're on
Happy
it.
birthday. That's what you
Yes.
get.
Also, Tanel and Warren Philippone had an issue, and it was reported and taken care of the next day. So if you see anything, you know how to get a hold of me.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, Mark, on that, at Odorrcio, that big tree that's out, way out by the woods there, is that something that your staff takes care of, or do you hire outside people to take care of that?
We started yesterday and
I noticed.
got moved to another emergency at the Willows. We had an issue with two trees that fell on a fence backing up the round hill, and there was a pool issue there, so we adjusted, but we are taking care of that.
So you do that with your own staff?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, we did.
That's a huge tree.
4 guys did that tree, believe it or not.
Yeah, I could just see,
so
I'm out there like 3 times a week right
I-
now, and I can see the difference all of a
they're
sudden. I was
just-
like, I didn't know if you guys were doing it or you had to go
no,
outside because of the size.
That project was ours.
Right.
And the guys, we finally got in there because it was so wet, and we
Yeah.
back down there, and we got
Yeah.
a new chipper this year.
Well,
on
I'll
our
just
budget,
echo
and-
everybody else, fields look great,
No, thank you. I
especially
appreciate
right out
it.
here too.
Yes, thank you.
Skunk Hollow, 2 things. The native wildflowers back there started out about 2 to 3 weeks later than usual because of such a difficult winter we had, but they've been blooming their heads off. They've been beautiful. Bloodroot, trillium, trout lilies, different anemones, just gorgeous. So it's been fun to watch that come along, as it does every year. The second thing is the wooden pathway that the Boy Scouts put in last winter over a very wet area in Skunk Hollow where there's some tree roots and it's constantly wet, has really been great because it's wetter than ever back there this year for whatever reason, probably because of all the snow and the saturated ground, and it's just functioning beautifully.
Great. The one thing I noticed, Tammy, when I was at the Arbor Day celebration, that at the Friends of Radnor's trails, the bulletin board, the glass was broken in that bulletin board on the comfort station. So just wanted to mention that.
It's plastic, and
Oh.
it's been replaced twice. It's on the list to be replaced
Okay.
again, so.
Number 3.
It's kind
Got
of
it.
just a tough area. The kids are kids, and there's no excuse, but you know,
Got it.
you know how it goes. We're on it.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Nope.
Anything else? Good, beautiful. Parks are excellent. Okay, other reports we'll go through real quick. EAC, Luke's not here. Shade Tree, I have no report. School Board,
School board met at the end of last month, I think the 22nd, and the major topic of discussion then and in a special committee of the whole meeting that we had on Tuesday is our upcoming budget vote. The school board is proposing an almost an $86 million budget. There's some question as to level of expenditures and so forth. But my guess is there will be an interesting meeting on upcoming this May, which is when the vote will take place. Chuck? Any color? The school board is always colorful, so.
is there any talk about Enki Turf replacing the turf? I mean, we're getting
Oh,
to
yes.
the end of the
Oh,
life of
yes.
that.
Oh, yes.
The turf, yeah.
It is, I'm not on the facilities committee, but the facilities committee has been entertaining all kinds of discussion about Enki Turf and the configuration of Enki Turf and incorporating whatever the decision is about the turf in with an overall assessment of parking and traffic at the high school and who's going to pay and how much. And it's very far, the discussions are quite far along.
Okay.
And the sports teams have been well represented during those discussions. Pete Sampson and at the meeting, the facilities meeting the other day, Pete Sampson, Jim Canelio were there,
Bob
Kevin
Nicholas.
Riley, who else?
Bob Nicholas?
Bob Nicholas has been there. I don't know if he was there the other day, but they are all very involved in what's going
great.
on and attempting to come to some meeting of the minds with regard to, the issue is just replace what is currently there versus extending the field and configuring it so that two teams can practice on the field at the same time, but you obviously maintain regulation field size for game purposes. And there's, that's obviously a more expensive project. And then the question is, what do the sports teams want? Who would pay for it? How then do we configure, payment and responsibility down the road for the next time it has to be replaced? And how does this all fit with pickup and drop off and all of that stuff? So it's well underway.
Got it, great.
I think the other piece, since we are Parks and Recreation, is that the sports teams want to pursue I think the original design was made so that the fields could be turned. And that was something that was put in for future use, and they have determined that they need that. So that's something that we're looking at, because that would increase the availability of the fields. It would also allow more time in between practices. So
Right.
we had a commitment from the sports teams leaders that we really wouldn't increase the usage by more kids. We would decrease it and allow a transitional time where there would be maybe 15 minutes between the practice,
Right.
so that the kids could be picked up off of the site. New kids would then come in, so that would really increase the safety concerns that we have, and it would just allow for a better traffic flow, and something that we're looking forward to pursuing. So there are many benefits from turning the fields and allowing two. That would be one of the biggest ones.
Right.
It would really cut down the issues we're involved with as a school board for the safety piece. So we're looking forward to continual dialogue and moving in that direction, I would hope. That's the direction I would like to see us going.
Great.
Thank you.
Tammy, if I could ask you a quick question. How is everything going over at Memorial? I know we've been in, I guess this is the second season with the lights and sort of the full force of what we had hoped to get out of Memorial.
I think things are going great. I think everything in terms of organization with Agnes Irwin and how we interface with them and schedule the field has been very clear cut. I think the field has also opened up opportunities for the sports groups that didn't really exist for many years, with just the inability to use that field because of its condition. So far, I think all of the relationships have worked out really well with the core users of the facility. It's also enabled us to, with the increased usage that we can have there, we've been able to entertain a lot more rentals as well, which has worked out. So we've worked with some different organizations like YSC, which is a soccer organization down just outside of Radnor. I know they rent the field a lot, so I think it's really provided a great opportunity. And then, of course, the extended day with the lights has worked out tremendously, too.
All right, one other Trails. Pat's not here. Is anyone else with Pat on the Trails Committee, or? Okay, we'll skip that one. New business, we really don't have any new business to discuss tonight, so we'll go right into old business. And maybe an update on the Willows RFP process. John or Bob?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick
Jamie,
update.
okay.
I know that we are engaging a lease agreement with Jeffrey Miller in the Lake House Inn. It was, I think, discussed at our previous meeting, and I know that that's underway. I anticipate that, I think, at the May 19th Board of Commissioners meeting, it'll actually be on their agenda for review. And that would be an operational lease agreement of the facility. There would be a significant amount of improvements that they would be making the facility that would include a prefabricated structure that, of course, would come off the back to be able to have large group events that would happen at the Willows. So excited to know that that's moving. As of right now, the facility is not being utilized by any type of formal programming or events. So it'll be I think it'll be good to get that underway, and excited to meet with the board about that, of course, when that comes up on their agenda.
Great, yeah, it'd great to start using that again. Okay.
Excuse me,
Enki
Jim,
Park-
real quick.
Okay.
The bridge out there, is that still late summer planned to be completed?
Yes, it's under design standards right now. We've made some adjustments to it to arch the bridge and then come back a little further. We think one of the areas is currently blocked with a lot of debris and sediment. We're going to actually open that up and extend the bridge a little bit further. As part of that design, there'll actually be an area for biking and walking. So this way, the vehicle, you'll actually have a separated area for biking and walkers across the bridge, but also the structure will be able to handle an emergency vehicle across that bridge now. So
Great.
it's taking a little longer in the design, which we think will actually help more water flow underneath that bridge, which I believe with the work that Public Works has done with clearing out the area by the willows and with this bridge adjustment, our hope is that the flooding had happened in the past will be greatly reduced.
And do you have an expected time when you think that project, Bob, will be completed?
Hopefully would be next year, would be the completion of that. We're working on that. So what's good is the Board of Commissioners have set money aside for that particular project. So it is funded to be able to get done.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Enki Park Playground Replacement Project, Tammy, update on that?
Yes, actually, the equipment and the surfacing, we received authorization from the Board of Commissioners on March 28th to move forward with the purchase of the surfacing, the installation, and the equipment. So, and I know the equipment's been placed on order. It looks like we'll be in receipt of it. It'll actually go to the firm that's going to be installing it, which is the Playground Pros, and they'll receive it in inventory and get it ready for installation. We're looking at probably mid-June when they'll begin that process. My goal's been to at least, by the end of July to have it completely installed and everything up and running. Ideally, by the Wednesday, July 9th, night at the ballpark event, to be able to have it open and have it ready for everybody. So the project's moving, been working closely with Public Works and their staff, and real excited about it. I think it's going to be a really nice addition to the site. There's going to be a handicap parking spot, of course, with the walkway that you all had looked at going back to it. And I think it's a facility that's going to offer nice dynamic to the site and a great, vibrant, new playground facility for the kids within the community.
When you say surfacing, what are you talking about?
The surfacing is going to be a poured, rubberized surface. Okay. So it's going to be a little different than the wood carpet that we have down at a lot of our parks right now that you see. Actually, at all of our parks right now, we have a wood carpet surface that the Public Works Department sort of replenishes, I guess, if you will, each season. This will be a poured-in-place, rubberized surface. It's like a melted surface that'll go down on there. It'll have same safety ratings, same safety ability as the wood carpet would have. And it'll be, of course, a lot less maintenance for a Public Works Department.
Perfect.
What's the life cycle of that flooring material?
Don't quote me on it, but I think it's at least 10 to 15 years. But I know that it's definitely, it was the better value for us moving forward, and is a wave of the future of what we want to follow with some of our additional playground replacements we hope to have across other parks within the township.
And is the paving project, Tammy, that's associated with that has that been planned, in process, timing, et cetera? What's going on with that?
I believe Public Works and Steve Norsini is working on that part of the project right now.
So
What we're working on right now is moving the skate park and actually taking advantage. I know there were some questions that came up in regards to those utilizing the fields to actually relocate the skate park to keep the parking up in that direction, which we are working through again at Fleming, our township engineer, to make that adjustment. And then the skate park would relocate itself down almost directly across from this property here. And there is the potential, which will come up under cell towers with this configuration here, of them contributing a significant amount of money, which actually may pay for the entire cost for that relocation and the new surfacing, I think, that needs to be done on the skate park.
So, Bob, instead of paving along the existing road that we had last talked about, what you're talking about is moving the skate park out over here and then putting more parking where the existing skate park is?
Correct.
Okay.
Which I believe there were some questions, I think, that had come up at a previous meeting, that you'd actually keep, instead of walking
Right.
You'd have a shorter distance for those crossing
Gotcha.
the bridge, and then that would relieve the ability to have another bridge down here.
Is there a talk about how many extra spots will come in there, or versus what we were talking about in the previous plan?
Our hope is that I think there'll be some additional parking that'll come this way as well as we work in the skate park. But I think I believe once and for all, bring this building in compliance with its parking capacity,
Okay.
which will add a number of spots there. I want to say that at least 50 spots will be added,
Wow.
if not more, into there. But I believe that the question was regards to staying as close to that bridge as possible, so there wasn't another one necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on Enki? All right, Veterans Park, I know Chuck, you brought up a little bit of it. Tammy, is any more additional comments on Veterans Park? or-
Just wanted to thank the residents, of course, who came out. I think they were real enthusiastic about the plan. It's always great to hear the input and hear the concerns and things that were there. I think overall, they're very excited about it. They think it's a good project. Just a couple of the changes that would occur within it would be to move the sidewalk that goes along Lancaster Avenue, as you saw in the presentation that Simone gave to you in March, I believe, at your March meeting. It'll be to keep that existing berm, very similar type of atmosphere that it has right now, rather than bringing the sidewalk along Lancaster Avenue, keeping it into the park. The plaza that was presented will stay roughly the same in terms of the Veterans Memorial that'll be encased within there. I know there's some plans to, along the pathway at the back of the park, to make sure that that's in ADA compliance and put some uplighting along that and perhaps some upgrades to some of the fencing that's along there. But overall, they were very excited about the plan. I know there was a topic brought up about potentially adding some speed bumps along Midland Avenue in anticipation that visiting that park might increase. So that's something we definitely want to take a close look at. So right now, I think what the plan is, we're going to have Peter Simone is developing a sort of a little bit of an update with some of the adjustments that we talked and we met about. And then we're going to have another meeting with the residents to take a final look at it and then start to begin the process. I know one of the things that was brought up at that meeting was that we were selling the park to the veterans. Apparently that was a rumor that was out on the street, and just wanted to make sure that it's clear that the township will remain, that park will remain in the township's ownership as the improvements are done with that park. So it was interesting to hear that.
That is interesting. So okay, you got a rough time frame of when Simone Collins is supposed to come back, and then from that point on, construction starting, financing? I know it's all donations, but.
It's all donations. We anticipate we'll probably have a plan from him within a week or two. So I
Okay.
think that'll be very quickly, and then try and get a meeting with the residents again very, very quickly, and then start to begin the fundraising effort, which I know that, there's no plans for any taxpayer dollars to go to the improvements to this park. It'll be something that fundraising efforts will contribute towards.
Okay, great. All right, how about Clem McCrone, master plan and the Eastern Gateway plan? Update on that.
Both of those plans were actually presented at the March 28th Board of Commissioners meeting. Just in reference to the Clem McCrone master plan, I know that we had received authorization and moved forward with a grant submission to DCNR C2P2 program for a significant amount of money to support the funding towards that park. We also are going to be requesting state capital budget funding towards that, the improvements towards that park. So I think over the next couple weeks, going to try to identify a timeline for what the construction would look like, and get working on some construction and design plans as well with Kimmel Bogret to start to get that process moving.
Are we going to try and do it all in one lump sum, or what's the plan?
I think the plan is to look at it in both scenarios, but to continue to look for supplemental funding to get that project done in totality.
And how about, have we finalized on a design? I mean, they had 3 or 4 different designs that,
Yeah, I think the last plan that was presented last month to this board was, that's the final plan.
there was a couple options in there, moving different things around, I thought.
I think there was one, I think you presented 3 plans, and then his final one he showed you was the marrying of those together, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. All right. So
Do we-
that's moving along.
Have we got a projection of costs on that plan at all, Tammy?
I think the range that was quoted was somewhere between $1.2 and $1.8 million. And the hope is to get a considerable amount of money between the grant and the state funding to be able to apply towards that. And of course, there's township funding that's currently budgeted towards that project that obviously could cover some of the preliminary work that we could potentially get done this year, as well as the cost for the construction design that would be happening soon.
How about some additional money from the township? I know we were going to talk about that at Board of Commissioners meeting. Any thoughts on that, Elaine or John, or?
Maybe if I may, just to them, in June, we're going to be presenting our budget amendments and adjustments based on the storm. So that'll be going to the board in June is when we plan to present that. And I think at that point in time, there'll probably be some discussion in regards to that. But I know the number is pretty big on the storm that we didn't, in unanticipated costs, especially with the cleanup too.
Yep.
So that's a big number. So I think in anticipation of that, there may be some other items that you've recommended that we discuss with the board that I think will include those in there as part of that. But that'll go in June to the board.
Great.
And there's like, Bob, between this year and next year in the capital project, like $540,000 that's township money for that project?
That's correct.
And then the Eastern Gateway, any comments on that, or?
I think where we're sitting on that is reaching out to Pico and SEPTA on that. SEPTA is going to be replacing the railroad timbers under the tracks, which that's going to make a pretty big mess when that gets done. So I think what we're anticipating with the last plan that was presented to the board, I think everyone liked that. So the issue is now is waiting to see the participation with Pico and SEPTA, which I know there was interest in that. And I believe, wasn't Pico going to already look to at least put up some money initially here for that? And then that'll be something that, again, we'll go back to the board probably in next year's budget, proposed budget, looking at putting the money aside for that.
Great. Thank you. And then any update on cell towers in township parks?
We have received all three proposals now. Thanks to the Parks Board, the numbers are growing based on their compensation towards those sites, as well as money set aside for particular park improvements. We may receive one final proposal from one other firm, but our anticipation is at your June meeting to bring that vendor here in front of the Parks Board for your questions and comments, concerns that you may have in regards to that. But the number has increased quite a bit, not only from the rent, but also to the park improvements. I think from several of the firms, they've tried to tie it where they would hold money in escrow instead of turning it over to the township and then it be spent just into the general fund, that they would ask it be held in an escrow, particularly for that park, so it goes back in there. But also site improvements. And one of the items, Fenimore Woods is one. I know that Steve and Tammy had mentioned about that we've heard regarding the structure that sits at Fenimore Woods now, the stable building that's, what I understand is a very challenged condition. They had looked at, two of the firms looked at locating the equipment within there and then rebuilding that structure to maintain its historical value in the park. So that's one that we will be meeting internally to go through and meet with each of the firms, their proposals, to make a determination who we'd like to recommend and bring them back in front of the Parks Board here in June. And then from there, we would then look to go from to the Board of Commissioners.
If one of those vendors uses that structure at Fenimore Woods, would they take the entire thing, or would there be part left over for us to use for whatever, parties, whatever? Or?
I think it's the stables, but I believe what the pavilion in that, there's looked to be facility improvements to the pavilion there.
I actually meant the stables. Could we actually get some use out of that, or no?
I know there were some questions regarding redoing the bathrooms. I know there's been some concerns, I know on Tammy's part, in regards to whether or not the bathrooms are so far away from where the playground equipment is and from where the pond, of whether or not it makes sense to have them invest there or to go into another facility closer down by the playground equipment, by the pavilion, and then down for the pond area. So I think that's one of the considerations to look at. But from what I understand, that structure might have taken some more over the winter storms might have taken some significant damage to it. So that's
Okay.
something we're going to be taking a look at and see.
Okay.
Do you think the vendor you guys recommend at the June meeting, you think they'd be able to provide us some kind of, I guess, context as to where they want to put them at each of the parks and also what they're going to ultimately look like?
Yes, they will bring a site plan to show you where they would locate it, what it would look like. Several of them are looking at the flagpoles that actually would appear like a flagpole. There are some that look like trees, which I guess they've greatly improved those, but we've got to see what those look like, because the one at, I believe, the Country Club, that's a pretty bad example of what one looks like. But I guess they've greatly improved some of these, so that's a concern of how that would look. Plus, then we probably will invite Delaware County Communications down here, and probably our police and fire departments down here as well, the concerns, because a lot of these are communication points where we need improved either cellular service or for the radios for both police and fire.
Okay, great.
Bob, can I just ask, when you're saying vendors, are you talking about different cell carriers? Could you just explain, just clarify what you mean by that?
Several of them are tower companies that actually own and construct, and then they have contracts with Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile. But we do have one vendor, AT&T, that is submitting directly.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do the different proposals have different equipment? I mean, is there differentiating between the way the equipment looks in the proposals?
All of them, it seems as though it's a standard between, you could use the flagpole. They have some that look like a silo. I'm not sure where a silo would fit appropriately here. The trees, the towers that look like trees. So they're pretty much flexible on whatever the township would like to look at. I know that you've mentioned before, and I know several of the commissioners have asked for some locations within the area that you could actually take a ride by and look at. There are several on the Blue Route on the southbound side that are there, that it is tough to find them, but they are there. But it's something that we're going to want to make sure before they come in front of you that they have some pictures and some site information and try to get out to you in advance. So if you wanted to take a ride by, you could actually see what they're talking about.
How set, if at all, are we on the exact locations of these towers? Is that still in proposal stage?
What do you mean by?
Where in the township?
These are the ones that they've determined coverage areas where they would like to be at. So they would, if there were any other sites that they thought they would want to get better coverage at, they would have come to us with those. So this is where they feel there are dead zones for coverage. And also, too, the rent from other carriers to go up on here, that's also increased in some of these proposals, too.
And Bob, I'm sorry, what are those locations right now that they're proposing that they'd like to have towers in?
Willows Park, Fenimore Woods is a second, Ithan Valley Park is a third location. And the fourth tower is one that's right outside the building here, that we are redoing this tower here, but really 3 of the companies are out on that. So one company is going to do this one.
And has the board heard more from, I think there was a neighborhood right kind of behind the Willows that a couple people had, I remember hearing, been complaining about their coverage, et cetera. Has the board gotten more feedback from those neighbors and taken into consideration their hardships?
I mean, not recently. We've have a handful of neighbors who have made it known that they would really support this and they want coverage. I'm sure that when this comes out, we'll hear from them again, but we definitely have a handful of people who are very looking for cell coverage.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a lot about that personally, and if I lived somewhere where I couldn't get coverage in this day and age, how frustrating that would be. So I think that's something that we ought to think about as a community pretty hard.
Just come over to my house, Pat.
Pardon me?
Come over to my house. Some days I can't use my phone.
Yeah, I don't know where you live, but that's my point is that we ought to take consideration
No, I
of
don't live
all of
anywhere
our.
near there. I
Yeah.
mean, Andy's been to my house, tried to use his AT&T stick in his computer. You remember that, Andy?
I live in one of those places, too. We ended up having to buy a mini tower. It was terrible, remains terrible.
We also plan to meet with several of the neighborhood, like the Friends of Ithan Valley Park. We plan to meet with them prior to coming to the Parks Board. They have some questions. Right now, they're supportive, but they have a list of kind of some of the items of their concerns, which are our concerns. I believe the North Wayne Association would like to meet too, so we want to meet with them in advance. because there's a lot of information that's out there. One of the things that ran in the Suburban, there was a picture of, I believe there were some kids playing hockey on Fenimore Woods Pond that said if the cell tower goes up, they may not be able to play. We're not putting that tower in the pond, so that is not going to be an issue. So it's those things that, you know, it's not an issue.
Bob, where exactly in the Willows?
The ideal spot would be up by the community garden, where it would be. Our solicitor's looking into that, of whether or not that can be located on that property because of Project 70 money. So he's looking into that. It could be somewhere near the Willows Mansion. Again, we have to talk with the vendor, because I'm sure they wouldn't be too thrilled with doing their renovations and all of a sudden see a metal tower go up,
Right.
or a tree or a flagpole go up. So again, those sites need to be determined. They've all looked at them. And again, this is part of the internal reviews we want to do and meet with them to see where the best locations of these need to go.
And I hope you folks, when the vendors come in, are really tough with them on location. They obviously have a best location for them, but there's might be a better location for us that still fulfills their needs.
Or do you mean with, I don't mean to interrupt, do you mean by parks or locations within the parks?
Locations within the park.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, what Bob just said was next to community garden. Well, that's not the Willows, that's Skunk Hollow. So could it be further up the hill, further east? In Ithan Valley, my concern has always been the access. Ithan Valley, I personally believe they can do all the work over the sound wall from the Blue Route, so they wouldn't tear up the park. Fenimore, same thing, you know. So they're the kind of questions we need to ask them. They don't automatically get the spot they want. We have to make a reasonable accommodation.
And what will be helpful, I think, is whatever information they're going to present to us. It'd be great to get that a couple days before the meeting so we can actually digest it and have questions ready for them, as opposed to just having it here when we get here, if that's
No,
possible.
We'll make sure we do that for you.
Great, thank you.
And I know if there's anyone that I think is probably the most critical to the township is somewhere in the Willows area, like John had said, the best location, because from Delcom, that is a major concern from that. From police and fire, that's a major concern. I know just on some of the events Tammy's had down there working with, and just from fireworks, the communication between police, fire, Tammy, and that, there is zero communications with cell phones, with text, there's nothing. And usually under circumstances, the text will go through. We are at no communication, which to me, I think is a major concern. If someone gets hurt down there, even with the community garden of how popular that has become, to have no cell service in those areas, I think is, so. Is that that's a commercial, right?
Right.
In the garden,
Mhm.
no problem at all.
My phone works
So.
over there.
Phone works there.
Hey, Bob, I'm sorry, only one vendor's going to come in and present to us, or multiple?
What we'd like to do, because if we brought 3 or 4 in, I mean, if you wanted to, I'm sure they'll make their pitch. We would like to bring one in front of you that we vetted through, and that here's the best proposal that we have for the coverage, locations, which you can work through, but who's got the best financial proposal to you. And if you decide that we're not really too thrilled with this vendor who comes in, we'd be more than happy to bring you back another one.
Okay.
Are the proposals all or nothing, where certain sites can be eliminated, or is that how it's?
That's a very good question. I know Commissioner Schaefer asked that same question. It is not an all or one. I don't think you'll have each one that'll say we would like each tower, but I believe it would be if they got 2 or 3, that would be fine. I don't think that'll change. I also think that even if it ended up where you recommended only one, the board approved one, they're pretty much going to be locked into whatever that number is going to be. So I think there's a lot of flexibility in there, and I think getting the strongest number out right now is going to be the best.
I mean, I think that's fine to bring one proposal to us once you've vetted it, but it would be good to get a little bit of dialogue about why you selected that proposal over the other proposals, just so we have an idea of who else is involved.
Absolutely. What we'll do is we'll put that together of who all proposed, and we'll break down what their costs were, what their proposals were.
Great.
You may have them, I wouldn't be surprised that you'll have them show up the others that maybe aren't recommended, that may want to comment in there, which, but if we can't, that's a public meeting, they
Right.
can come and do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Commissioners? John, Elaine, any comments on anything, reports you'd like to add to our lovely meeting here?
Well, only that, I don't know how many of you made it to the Wheels of Wayne, but it was phenomenal. It seemed like from the minute they opened the gate, I left around 3 o'clock, and there were still people coming in. And talked to a lot of the people who own vehicles, and what they love about it is normally car shows are held in a field. So that you go and you take your lawn chair and you set it up next to your car and you sit there all day. Well, this is such a perfect thing because they can stroll around, they can shop, they can go to restaurants, bars. Not that anybody would drink. And then drive one of those beauties home, you know. But they like it. And it's a judged event, but it's not, you know, it's a fun judged event. And it's really the very first event of the season for them. So it gives them a reason to get their cars out, which, not that you have to twist their arms much to get their cars out, but it was a great success.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have any other comments, concerns, questions, opinions? Oh, public comment.
Sarah Pilling, Garrett Hill. Just very briefly, Skunk Hollow's garden has finally started. The weather has been definitely not cooperating, but I think tomatoes will be able to go in this weekend. It was 41 degrees Monday morning, and that's too cold for tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, squash, just about anything. But what I wanted to speak to you about is, I think we're coming up to 3 years ago, and most of you people maybe weren't even on the board, that are on the board now, weren't on the board, to ask you to have some consistent signage and policy about dogs in parks. Right now, it says no dogs allowed, $1,000 fine. In Emlyn-Tunnell, of course, Hartford is different. In Emlyn-Tunnell, in 1998-99, we successfully petitioned the township to make that a dog-friendly park. And we work very hard, the neighbors in Garrett Hill, to keep it cleaned up as much as possible. There are some lazy people who let their dogs poop and don't pick it up. It's harder in winter because it is just harder in winter. And there are a couple of us who go around and pick it all up. And then we make a sign that says, using this park for your dog is a privilege. Please pick it up. And it works pretty well. But it's just inconsistent. And to say there are no dogs going to be in parks, that's a joke. Dogs are companion dogs. They're service dogs. They're dogs for the blind. You can train a dog that if a person's got diabetes and they go into low blood sugar, the dog senses it and makes the person lie down. Dogs go to hotels. Dogs go to restaurants. Dogs go to stores. So I've been asking this now for close to 3 years, to ask you to spend just a little bit of time and think about what dogs mean to people and to come up with a consistent policy and consistent signage. If you think there are no dogs brought to baseball games at Emlyn-Tunnell Field, then you haven't been there, because the place is full of dogs. They're keeping them under control, but they're there. And so I think it's really stupid to have this sign that says dogs prohibited, $1,000 fine, when that isn't the case. I doubt that it's ever been, the word I want, I've lost, enforced. So why not do something smart and really think about dogs? They're no longer in a kennel. They're a member of the family. That doesn't mean they can run control. It could be dogs should be under the control of the owner at all times and leashed. And then I don't know how you phrase it, but it's the owner's responsibility to clean up after their dog. Simple. So thank you. I'd like you to think about that in less than the next 3 years.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any other public comment? Okay. Any move for adjournment?
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we adjourn.